Peace and blessings and namaste to all light warriors, workers, and everything in between. This is I, Sophie, today, and we're here talking with Ran. And oh my God, 2020, right? It was a run for all of us. What all happened in 2020? I mean, what did you go through in 2020? Because it was crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like it was such a mind screw. I mean, it was the most abject experience, I think, in general for the whole collective. It's the only year I can remember, at least in this incarnation, where I can't look back on a previous year and say, "Oh, I did this, this, and that." It's almost like it was just one long bad dream. And you know, we all had our own unique challenges. We all went through it together, but we all had our own unique expression and personal individual challenges of what that year was like. And you know, we're going to be feeling reverberations of that from years to come. I mean, we still are. So yeah, it was intense, was it not?
So everything hit. Like, how much do you think got accomplished in 2020 with your own personal journey? What did you go through?
I had just gotten out of a relationship in January 2020. This was right before COVID hit. So I got out of a relationship and I was processing that, trying to recalibrate, reboot for doing something new with my business and, you know, a way to make money. And then it hit. And then it was like, you know, all personal plans were squashed. And, you know, ultimately, I think that the biggest challenge I had that year was processing what I was getting from the collective, as well as, you know, processing my own personal stuff, how it all connected. I was in isolation, like everyone else, and just in my own world, my own like little hole of, you know, of transmuting and processing. It was extremely arduous with, you know, all the challenges and you know, that I've been through this lifetime. That had to been the paramount, most abject experience I've ever been through.
Because it was happening rapidly. Like everything was happening rapidly that year, right?
Rapid feeling, rapid processing, rapid.
Oh my God. And 2020 was a nightmare for me too, because that's when I got the grandiose idea and the inspiration to open up a business right there in February, dead smack. And I guess the whole COVID pandemic thing. And as soon as I got the keys to unlock the door, I was closed for months. And then it had to reopen again. Okay. And then we had to deal with all the fear that was going on with the collective. People didn't want to come out the house. They didn't want to, you know, do anything. And so it was interesting a lot, but I wasn't the only one. Like a lot of us got pushed to open up businesses in 2020. It didn't make logical sense.
Yeah.
Because we're not really benefiting at this moment, but I guess in some kind of way, we're supposed to be in position maybe. What do you think?
That's a good point. I mean, it's you know, you can't really judge what's wrong or right. I noticed a lot of businesses that opened up right before COVID hit. I mean, it was their own personal karmic experience to go through, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it wasn't necessarily the wrong time. I mean, you know, like I said, it's not something to judge as wrong or right, because people had to go through what they had to go through to experience what they did, you know, the disillusionment of having a brand new business and having to deal with the struggles that every individual business owner went through, like you, like so many restaurants I noticed throughout the country.
Yeah.
Opened in January and February. It was just such an ironic occurrence. But ultimately, I would say it made everybody stronger on just about every level, did it not? Whether or not you had a business or not, everybody that survived 2020, you know, grew a lot.
2020 was what? The year of self-reflection, karmic, ascension. How would you describe 2020?
Oh my God. I mean, a list of adjectives, I would say, but it was assured human transformation. It was assured, guaranteed. If you were going to survive it, if you're going to remain incarnated on this planet, you were going to grow to some degree, regardless of who you are and how your lifestyle is. So I'm glad we survived it. I feel stronger. I feel more secure within myself from what I went through. And the future looks a lot brighter. I think for people, especially on a waking path, a spiritually awakened path, that are, you know, that are tackling and going after their own personal, you know, transformation, you kind of have a leg up. I think a lot of people that are in that place have a leg up for the future, for what's to come. Because you know, it's the ignorance of not knowing what's taking place is is the most painful part of it. If you don't understand what's going on internally and how that relates to the external, then it becomes more difficult. But that's always been the case, hasn't it?
I was getting ready to say, and that's what I wanted to speak on later on, was like, okay, we had, this is not the first time humanity's going through an awakening process, right? But for some reason, there was something different with 2020, humanity goes through the cycle over and over and over again. And this time, everything is hitting. We're talking about karmic cycles. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about prophecies, multiple prophecies being fulfilled at the exact same time, depending on where your level of consciousness is, right? I mean, because the people that are dealing in religion, they see that prophecy being filled out. People that are dealing with more indigenous type of belief systems, they see that prophecy being laid out. So
Absolutely,
do you really think that 2020 was the focus of where the collective as a whole just decided we're going to focus in on this particular thing and then everybody's living out that timeline? What do you think?
I mean, there are multiple timelines occurring at one time, right? And everybody has a perspective. I mean, we experience multidimensionally, even if a lot of people don't understand that or understand that we are experiencing that. No, I think it was clearly the apocalypse. There was a great unveiling. It's the only time in our accessible recorded history where humanity as a whole had one point of focus, had one grand awareness that we were all in together with something, no matter how truly bad it was or malefic this purported exosome really was or is. It was still one global focus on one thing and each other, and that we were all going through to get together. Although it may not have been a positive focus, it still brought us together in a multitude of ways. Yeah,
it did.
Yeah.
I agree. And I also agree that a lot of people are very excited that it's over. But the one thing is, most of us, after we made it through 2020, we looked at 2021 and was like, yes, okay, this is it. All of that's behind us. We're getting ready to go forward and everything is just going to open. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be prosperous and everything's going to go away. And that didn't quite happen now, did it? So where are we now?
It didn't. It seemed like the last full moon we had a full moon in Capricorn. From an astrological perspective, Sophie, that was pretty much the end. The Capricorn karmic cycle of 2020 ended with the last full moon, just from an energetic astrological standpoint. This recent new moon we've had, the new moon in Cancer, is the beginning. Astrologically, it looks like a lot of things are going to begin to blossom and open up in a whole new configuration of ways for many people, particularly people that have been doing their work, doing their due diligence internally, are going to be able to see a lot of rewards and blessings. And as you've noticed, a lot of people made a lot of money during 2020. People that were into a lot of the more dense focuses of materialism made a lot of money on different levels. But I think it's like the other side of that. People like you and I, people that have done the real transformation, things are about to start to get good for us. And things aren't over. I mean, we still have multiple challenges ahead, politically, economically. But I think most of us, the meek, shall I say, the meek that is, inheriting the earth in these days, are about to experience a new level of prosperity like what we've never wanted. And particularly, from my standpoint, I'm 45. I've been on the spiritual path for a long time. I've heard a lot of things, a lot of wishes and dreams from the New Age community of how, we've dreamed about how life could be or can be, or once we reach a certain point. I think we're going to see a lot of these dreams and wishes come to a reality, to an experiential focus now. I think we're going to be able to experience a lot of beautiful things. It's coming right around the corner.
I was saying that for a long time. I kind of figured and I felt that there was going to be a huge wealth transfer, right? For the meek, for the people, for those who have been in the positions for a long time. I actually made a joke about it, and I was saying to myself, okay, I understand economics to a certain degree. I'm not an expert in it. And I do know that, cities, states, countries, all of that have to have some form of economy, right? By selling, trade, goods, all of that. But what is really backing our dollar is no longer in existence. Is that correct? Do we actually have anything back in our dollar?
We don't. We don't, and that's not new information. I think most people that are watching this video right now, even know that it's a fiat money system. It's empty. Yeah.
So now, if this is the case, now say we want people that didn't have the opportunity to open up businesses or own homes or stuff like that because of the credit system, et cetera. What's wrong with having the rich elites actually back up these loans when they default?
What exactly is your question? There's a question behind that question. So would you have
the question?
Yeah.
Right. I'm saying, okay, if we had like the small group of rich families that own everything, right? I mean, that's a theory. We don't know if it's true, but that's a theory that there's like 13 families or something like that own everything in the world, that have all of this wealth, Rockefeller. Okay, fine. I would put out there that, they be the ones that back the loans.
I think they did early on in our global economy. I don't think it's so much that way anymore. I think there's more of an illusionary aspect to these families or the cabal. It's not quite. I think that's been put out. I think there's a whole story of illusion behind that as well, because it just comes down to, at the end of the day, Sophie, it's all about us. We are the creators. They're not creating jack. They're putting out the illusions, and then we react to it. We watch the Hollywood movie, and then we create it. Right? That's how it works. The programming is put before us, and then we mold it the way we do with our own creative consciousness.
That's correct. And I am so glad that you said that, because, people talk about the conspiracy theories all the time. And always in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, this cannot be this black and white. Okay. Especially when you have it being presented to you. Now, see, I'm one of the firm believers that you're given a duality, right? Half people are going to look at things this way. Another half are going to look at things in its opposite. But we're always just presented with these two outcomes that always seem to be a polar opposite of one another. Now, we'll say, okay, whatever the mass media puts out first has to be false. And you have to, I guess, what's the word that I'm looking for? Hunt for truth information. But if you really think about it, we're not really hunting now, are we? Because you can go on YouTube and you can find this hidden information all over the place. You can Google it all over the place. And that's the second reality that is presented. And it always feels like no matter what cycle that we're in, we're going to be presented with two different realities. But I honestly believe that the full truth lies in between the two. And I think that you have to have the ability to, I guess, pull from both dynamics, from both polarities, to figure out what the real solution is. What do you think about that? My cat is on my shelf right now. I'm going to kill it.
Okay. I love your cat, by the way. Our base point of reference or observation or reaction always comes from a dualistic standpoint until we take it to a more universal, unitarian perspective. We have to step back, look at it from what it is, or we can do it from the rudimentary mind. We can do it from the limbic system of fear and stay in that dualistic perspective, right? And even the mainstream media, they put out a lot of truth too. That's where the real confusion comes from, because they put out truth with lies, right?
Right.
It's a forked tongue. It's a forked tongue system. So, but when we can look at it from, when we step back and just observe and tap into our own truth, and and let it bounce off of our heart and our mind, because we use our pineal gland and our heart in tandem as it's properly, meant to be used. Then we can discern the truth from a more unified field of perspective. Right. I hope that answers your question, but
it actually does. We're looking forward to more unification. Okay, we were saying that, and because I guess right now it's the time for it. Okay. And I feel like no matter how many strides we take to go forward in this, there's always something that is constantly presented, to prevent this movement. I.e., we had Black Lives Matter movement, right? That was a big thing to a lot of people. It was, until you realize what the energy behind it actually was. We tend to just jump on board with things when we think that they're helpful without utilizing critical thinking. And the issue that I've been having is, even though we feel like we're awakening, advancing, that we're supposed to be going through this evolutionary state of progression, it still feels like there's many of us who are now, I'm not saying regressing. The spirituality aspect heightens, but the thinking process seems to go in reverse. Am I presenting this correctly?
You are, but I think, as you also know, Sophie, I mean, this is a multi-dimensional experience. It always has been. So there's life and death that's occurring all at the same time, right? We have new species being created as we are having the species go extinct. Right? So there is a regression. There is an evolution. There is a de-evolution. There is an evolution, right?
Right. I'm trying to figure out why we're having a hard time here with balancing our mental, emotional, and our spiritual state. Okay. It's like, okay, once we start going more into the spiritual aspect of things, now we want to remove logic, because in one hand, we understand that there's a linear way to think, which was kind of associated with, I guess, masculine principles. And then you have an expansive form of thinking that was more catered to feminine principles. Mm-hmm. And as we started to transition into this age of more feminine consciousness, something happened where now the logic leaves. People are afraid to stand for something. People are afraid to express their ideas. They're afraid to express their truth. They're afraid to judge things, as being harmful or beneficial. And we can't lose sight of that while we're going through this, because if not, then what do you have? I mean, you have to agree we have to have some type of law and order, right?
Are these choices that other people are making, like the ones you're defining, is that helping your path?
Does it help my path of
you're laying out a type of people that are not thinking logically, but choosing a dystopic type of lifestyle, right?
Right.
Why not just remove your focus from that and put it on what you want to, like your own personal growth and transformation? Because that's going to happen. There's going to be injustices that take place. There's going to be ignorance regardless. But unless we focus on that and put more focus on our own personal transformation and what we want to create, the better. The shit's going to remain. How much do you want to focus on the shit? And it also brings me to some meditations that I've come to recently. Some of Dolores Cannon's work about talking about a lot of people that are here that don't necessarily have souls, basically programs within the matrix. They're just these bodies walking around with these pseudo consciousnesses. And I don't have any empirical evidence or truth to back this up. I'm just going based on a lot of metaphysical information that's out there, like I said, Dolores Cannon's work. I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to it. I don't know how many souls are really here to transform and help this alchemical ascension process along on this planet. But the people that you just defined, they do exist. They have been existing, but it's not assisting me or I think you on what we're trying to get to. So let it be. Let those people be. Like, we have to resonate and find the tribe that we vibe with, right? And get this show moving. Get it moving. Get this show of Ascension moving.
Got it. I'm trying not to be distracted. Okay.
You have some cat food.
So you are a fan of Dolores Cannon. You're a fan of Dolores Cannon as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a fan or the opposite. I've just, from a neutral standpoint, I've reviewed some of her work. She seemed to have been a very sweet individual when she was here doing her work. I think she certainly added to the work we're all doing. I think she did. Do you like her? Did you enjoy watching and reading some of her material?
I read a lot of it. The Convoluted Universes series, yeah. Jesus and His Scene, yes. The Guardians. I've read a lot of her work. I found it very, very interesting. And then just trying to put things in perspective from, I guess, our own personal truths as well, and what we've personally experienced. One of the things that was bothering me, okay, well, I'm not even going to say bothering me, because I am one of those people that just like to think and overthink, right? So we were talking about conscious beings, coming into this planet during this time for this great awakening, and some of them were volunteers, right? But we've also had people who weren't quite necessarily volunteers, but may have been here for a while, trapped into the density. We have those people too. One of the core conversations that I've been having for the past couple of days is, while we're going through this ascension process, okay, we're experiencing a lot of chaos, but chaos automatically comes before order. We get that. What happens? And this is a hypothetical question. As a matter of fact, I want to ask it to you as if you were the design or creator of this universe. Okay, can we do that? Can we play that game real quick?
Well, I am the designer and creator, and so are you.
Okay, so, but let's just say you did this by yourself. All right, say you did this by yourself. And say that when you did this by yourself, you put in place some key universal principles to govern your world, right? So you have, let's say, some hermetic principles, law of gender, law of cause and effect, law of this, law of that. You have that for your universe. And say your universe was kind of designed as like a starter planet. Like this is a baby species. You're going to let them grow. You're going to let them experience. You're going to let them do their free will, etc. But you have these certain guidelines in place. And during the time of the Great Awakening, all different levels of consciousness starts to enter in, and their universal rules are different than what you designed or what you think should be happening here. A whole bunch of consciousness coming in from various laws. Say each planet has their own law that go and govern the system. They're in your Earth now. And because you're trying to raise the consciousness, they're helping to raise the consciousness, but a whole bunch of chaos came along with it. And with the chaos, now you are finding yourself in a position where you can't figure out what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what laws need to change, what laws need to, revamp, or are these other consciousness that are supposed to be here, that is supposed to be helping us, are they causing the chaos? How would you judge that? I'm just curious.
Sure. I think with the theoretical example you gave, i.e. a creator, if it was me, or i.e. just a creator, somebody that could create to that level, there would be an acceptance of that, because anything else that came into a creation would just be the natural flow of all that is, right? Of God, of God's. So it's not something that is wrong or right? It's just the natural progression. That's why when we talk about the cabal, or the ones that have been in power, the ones that the evil people on the planet, this is part of the game. This is part of what we've all designed to go through.
Right.
So that's why I say there's no wrong or right. There's a great Rumi quote that says, out beyond wrong and right, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Right. So this is part of the game, to bounce off what we aren't to what we are. This is bringing us back into alignment to realize our true divine essence of who we truly are, our Ein Sof, right?
Our Ein Sof, absolutely.
So that's the part, that's the game, that's the end result of this game. It's a long game. It's a long game, right? Millions of incarnations. Some less, some more, some less for different souls, but that's part of the schematic here. Yeah,
but we can all agree that it's designed to take us somewhere higher than what we've ever been. Evolution. Yes.
I'm somewhere different than I was 5 minutes ago, and so are you, right?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good. All right. So, in 2020. Everybody was reporting that they were going through what they considered ascension symptoms. You've heard of that term, right? Ascension symptoms. Some of them were very mild. Other of them were very extreme. I want to know mentally, from you, what was the defining factor that made you realize, holy crap, I am going through this process right now? What made it different from 2019, 2018?
I think I had experienced some twinges of Ascension symptoms for a few years, but I, with a lot of people, I'm assuming the same is true for you, experienced them in a more extreme way in 2020. Because my consciousness has expanded. I mean, every year, I grow. My perceptions have expanded. And so when 2020 hit, I was able to really feel the weight of the collective, right? Really feel that the pain of confinement, and really feeling the, having to really look at my shit, or the pressure of other people's emotions of having to look at their own stuff. So that brought about a very painful and difficult psychological experience for me, discerning what was mine and what was the collective. A lot of times time wasn't experienced right. I didn't know if today was last week, or what I remembered from yesterday was what I was thinking about next week. I would be texting somebody would write, text the word talk, and I would think, well, talk, that's not how you spell the word talk. You don't spell talk T-A-L-K. That's not right. It must be spelled a different way, right? So, I would lose, basic knowledge would seem foreign to me. So those type of mind trips, the type of psychological stresses. So yeah, I don't know if can you relate to any of that yourself?
Yes, majorly. Just like you, I think I was already going through ascensions and awakening. I think what 2020 did for me was more of an integration or activation. It was kind of bad. Like, I ended up in the emergency room a few times.
Oh, did you?
Had spikes, and nobody could figure out what was going on with me. Had spikes and blood pressure, went up to almost stroke levels. Anything that I was doing differently, every day. And I spent a lot of time Googling and trying to research, because people were talking about the Ascension symptoms. None of them actually matched mine, though. What ended up happening was I went through what felt like electrical charges. And then when my shit hit the fan, I was able to see every single mistake that I ever made. From the time that I was young up into adulthood, and not even in this lifetime, everything became confusing. I went through the exact same thing you did, where I was getting time mixed up too. I thought it would be one day and it's the weekend. I don't know. It was wild. It was wild for me. And I almost convinced myself that I was losing my mind.
Yeah, I can relate.
I did. I almost convinced myself that I was losing my mind, or something was going on, and the way that I even saw the world was completely different. The way that I saw the universe was different.
Yeah. So for you, it was psychological, it was physical, it was spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, when you first began speaking on that, you mentioned the upgrades, like the upgrades that we made. I don't think we were able to really celebrate the upgrade that was taking place. Right.
Right.
Reality. As much as painful as it was, as arduous as it was, there were a lot of blessings that were coming about from the pressure, where we were growing through the pressure, but it wasn't an easy time to celebrate the growth that we were experiencing. And that's why I think we're going to finally be able to see those blessings of that expansion that we've been able to create from our pain is coming about in the latter part of 2021, and you're going to really see some things being rebuilt in 2022. Really see that coming in. So, but yeah, we went through the crucible, didn't we? We went through our pain, and I think the ones that have held on, the ones that are meant to be here to continue to hold the light and to bring more unification about, yeah, we have beautiful things to look forward to.
Oh, I believe that. Well, at least I'm hoping for it, because good grief, good God Almighty. Remember when you said in the last conversation that we got to a point where we realized, just fuck this? I mean, I was there. I was there.
Well, Sophie, I remember people saying this way before 2020. People would go through difficult challenges, personal, or we would go through, a lot of people would go through different spiritual challenges. I remember life was very difficult before 2022. first was 2020 for me as well. And I can remember people talking about, well, screw this, I don't want to be here anymore. And this was before 2020. I mean, that was a real that was a real defining moment for humanity in general. So I know people wanted to check out before then. So the people that have hung on, are going to be able to really be able to stand strong and be grounded for the new frequencies coming in. And like I said, we're still going to have some of these reverberations of fear and confusion to come for a number of years. But the more we can trust, the better off we will be, because I think for a lot of people that really went down deep to do some of that real deep rudimentary work, I don't necessarily have to fear on that level anymore. I don't think people like you don't necessarily have to fear on that level any longer. So I think it's it's about dealing with the fear as it comes up in the next couple of years and going into more trust, more into the present moment. It's a challenge for me every day to stay present, to stay grounded. But when I do, things continue to be provided, and I continue to get supported. Go ahead. I apologize. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to agree with you and say that I think the fear left when the removal of attachments left. Okay, with me, when you feel like I don't need any of it, you know what I mean? Then it's very easy for you to just kind of navigate through life. I think a lot of things that hold people back is the fear of detachment. What's going to happen to my business? What's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my friends?
Yeah.
And
what do you really need to survive in this life? What are the basic needs you have? Because at the end of it all, ultimately, you just, if you have your consciousness and you're in a place where you can contain your consciousness in the place of peace and neutrality, that's all you really need. Obviously, the physical body needs requirements, but the attachment to a lot of physical possessions or attachments to husbands and wives or family members, they're not necessary.
It's not. And so that's where the fear left. When I felt like I don't have anything to lose, that's going to take my soul with it. It doesn't matter, anymore. I need the basic necessity. What's the basic necessities for me? Okay. Of course, food, shelter, clothing, love. Everybody wants to be loved. You know what I mean? And then that was pretty much it. So in like this, my whole world went from this, having all of this all around me, traveling and, and having fun and vacations and Mai Tais and whatever it was that I could do, all the way down to a very minimalistic point of view. Like,
if
you would have talked to me 10 years ago, I'd have been up the wall by now. Like, why aren't I here? Why aren't I in California? Why am I doing this? I would have been obsessing over my looks. I would have been obsessing over, everything. And I'm just not there anymore. Only thing that I want to do right now, I suppose, is just be in peace. My peace of mind is so much more important than anything else right now.
That's it. Your own consciousness. Be able to have your own consciousness in a safe space of tranquility. And that's why they put out the distractions like they do, because the second we get alone and get alone and be in a peaceful place without any external distractions, we can expand our consciousness. We can find the truth within here, and they don't want that, because then the game changes. It's over. The game's over.
The obsession behind power and control. I still don't even understand it. I probably will never understand it, to be honest. And maybe it's not even meant for me to understand. But just to see how far people are willing to go to maintain a certain level of control over how you think, how you move, how you act.
I'll be honest with you, Sophie. I can relate to it. I think if you
please share.
Well, if you channel it, I think anybody can. I think you can do the same. If you channel it through your shadow persona, some of your darker sides, if you channel it there, you can tap into the desire for control or a lot of nefarious things, right? So when I tap into my dark side, of my, the side of myself that, that I've come to integrate and accept, but not look at it as a separate part of me. I can understand the desire for control and domination, because it all comes from an insecurity inside. Have you ever experienced insecurity? I have. Yeah. So dominance.
I'm thinking, of course I have, but I'm just trying to think, did I ever really have the desire to control others? I've had the desire to control myself.
If you're not giving it to yourself, then you're going to reach out here to get it, right?
Yeah.
So you better give me what I want, or I'm going to. Because if you're not getting it from here, you got to get it from out there, right?
Oh, I see how you're presenting it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Oh my God. Shadow work. A topic
that was a big part of 2020, right? I had a lot of eclipses in the 8th house, a lot of shadow work, a lot of that shit came to the surface. But I was alone. I was alone in the house by myself the majority of the year. I got to FaceTime with my son every week.
Okay.
And call my mother on the phone, but I was ultimately alone and isolated. So all the monsters came up. I looked at all the monsters, dealt with all the monsters, and
good for you.
The work doesn't ever end. And I think, speaking of monsters, the shadow side for the whole collective, for humanity, showed itself. Now, a lot of people still don't know what's going on in terms of the bigger picture, that there is, the big dualistic picture that, there is a force out there that means or desires to dominate humanity. And even in its own right, it's still an illusion in itself. But they still play into the game. They still don't ultimately know what's going on. But the ones there were a lot of people that woke up to the game because the monster showed itself, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's
true. So the big monster showed itself. You saw your monsters. I saw my monsters. A lot of people did. And some people, they overcame that. Some people came through the fire successful by dealing with the monsters. Some perished in the fire. A lot perished in the fire. And I'm not just talking about that, malefic exosome. We're talking about people, a lot of shootings, a lot of suicides, addictions, took people out. I'm just not willing to deal with this, and they checked out.
I know it. It was really sad.
It was, and I can understand to the appeal to wanting to check out. This is not an easy incarnation.
That's right.
But if we stick with it, if we do our work, the blessings are infinite and bountiful beyond what we can perceive in this moment, in this conversation.
I like the way you talk. It keeps us very positive. I love that. And I'm going to take that with me, because it was stressful. It was stressful. And to a certain degree, it still is, and it's not over. I'm definitely learning something new every day. I can't even get comfortable in what it is that I think I know anymore. Yeah. Everything's constantly unveiling. Yeah. So now I just got to the point where I'm just going to process it as is. There's no point in me choosing sides. It's just going to be as is. And I'm just going to have to learn, what is working for me and what is not working for me, and just leave it alone. That's the best thing that I can do right now, because each time I get to a point where I've got, that epiphany moment, I have an understanding. I get how this is going. I know what this is supposed to be. Then something else happens, takes me way off another track. And that's why I always say I have to have the ability to submit to a higher truth whenever it is presented, because that's the only way that I can grow.
Absolutely. Fear immediately puts us in that dualistic mind state. It puts us in the ego as well. We've got to go out here to change our reality, because I found if you do the basic things, if you eat really well to support your body, living foods, if you're exercising, if you're meditating to get yourself in that neutral state, and if you're loving yourself, everything's provided for. I don't care who you are. I don't care what part of the world you live in. If you can cultivate that internally by taking care of yourself, magic happens. Literally, magic's always happening anyway. It's always occurring. But what kind of magic is happening? What magic are you creating, right? What magic are you creating? What magic are you creating?
Okay.
What magic are you creating, right?
Speaking, manifesting, focusing. There are some topics that I do want to talk about, but being as though this is the first run, I think I want to hold off on them. Yeah. Okay. We're going to build this up as you have wisely suggested, all right, this is the introduction. But eventually, I want to get into some heavier things, but not right
good.
now.
I'm excited, yeah.
Okay. So if you're up to continually do this, I want to pick your brain a lot more, because I'm looking at your picture right now and I see symbols flying all around there in the forehead. I see all this information right here. It's just waiting to get out. We're gonna help you get it out.
I would suggest we keep it collaborative, because I am beyond certain that you know things I don't know. And in my great wisdom, I don't know jack. So let's keep this collaborative. I'd like to learn from you as well, Sophia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any words of advice that you want to leave us with as we continue through this process?
The spotlight just came on.
So that means you got
it. With that question, I go blank. I think it's when we're in the flow of conversation, that's when it happens for me. But I hope people got something out of this video. I truly do. And I'm excited to see, where we go with these future videos, what comes about from this beginning, from this monad that we're creating right now. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful things, beautiful things.
The beautiful seed we're creating, we're planting right now, Sophia.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing your truth. And then we'll get a little bit deeper later on. Okay. And I love your presence. Thank you so much. I'm humbled.
It's mutual. Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. I love your channel, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye. Bye. I'm Sophie, and I love you all, and so does he. He's going to tell me that.
Okay. Bye.